Good morning. So I have been having some crazy ass dreams lately, and I want to talk to you about them because there were so many in succession in such a short period of time that I just began, like making sure I was like getting all the details. So I'm not sure what's leading to me having more dreams. I mean, I think I've just been more open and more receptive lately, especially since I've been practicing not really giving a fuck and just kind of being. And I think in the process of doing that, which is something that I teach people to do, especially when they're trying to develop psychically, is like you can't really care so much about the answer about what you're going to tune into because you could be wrong. And if you're not okay with being wrong, you're not going to get as much information. I've begun to document them and keep them in my dream journal because I like to keep a dream journal, and I suggest keeping a dream journal because you always want to go back and reference some of the stuff that you dream about. And I've mentioned to you guys before about having dreams about like my family members passing away and then they pass away, but these dreams were so unique that I was like, okay, I feel like I'm a conspiracy nut now. But the first dream that I'm going to talk to you about is this dream that I keep having over and over again, and it's about my mom passing away. And so the first time I had the dream was about 2 weeks ago, and in the dream I was like preparing her funeral, getting things ready for her funeral, and I was just sad that she'd pass away. And then that was that dream, and then last week my sister had a dream about my mom passing away, and she was upset because she had a dream that my mom was murdered, which was horrible. And I was like, okay, it's weird. And so she called me and she was all upset, and I said, well, I had a dream that she passed away last week, so I don't know what's going on. And I'm a little worried. And as you well know, like if I have a dream and it's about my own family, my life, things in my like direct awareness or experience, then it is harder for me to understand like specifics. It's hard for me to understand anything in regards to that because you can't really read yourself. You care too much about yourself. That's going to affect your ability to like tune into yourself. But one of the dreams that I had that got my attention was that my sister, and it was about my sister. My sister had a daughter, and she named her Allie, which was short for Alicia. Well, my mom's name is Alice, so it's like, why is she naming our daughter Alicia? If my mom were still alive. So I was like, that made me feel a little iffy because usually you name a child after someone who's passed away, when they're passed away. And so I can only see my sister doing that if my mom had passed away by the time she had children. So that was a little worrisome. And then like I said, my sister had a dream that my mom passed away. Well, it's funny, and then you're like, funny, what's so funny about this? No, it's funny. My sister, my sister called my mom after we talked about our dreams with her. My sister called my mom. And my mom's like, well, that's funny. I just had a dream that y'all died. That y'all died. So, that's funny because it's like, you think you're going to get me? I got y'all, And so she told us that she had a dream that we all died. So it's like, okay, everybody seems to be dying in dreams lately. What's going on? It can mean several things. So, that dream worried me. But then when my mom told us that she had a dream that we died, and I was like, okay, now this is all bullshit. This is all crazy. But then last night, and the reason why I'm doing this video is because I had another dream last night. And in that dream, my mom passed away. And my aunt, who just recently passed away, it's like my mom was waiting for her to come join her. So I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. I was like, okay, that worries me a little bit because now I'm dreaming about relatives who have passed on and they're coming to collect or they're coming to be with my mom. So that worries me a little bit. Because I think, okay, something's happening here. Because this is not just like dream about someone dying. This might be something more. So now I have to be a little more proactive. And I also kept seeing my mom's throat area, her thyroid. My mom just has a thyroid problem. She takes medication for it. She's like been on it for years. But I kept seeing that in the dream. So I'm gonna take her tomorrow. She's got a doctor's appointment, and I'm gonna take her so she can get her throat check, her thyroid check, and see if there's anything going on with the vocal cords or the throat, or because I want to make sure that there isn't anything there that I can prevent. If this is supposed to happen, then I'm getting these dreams for a reason. So I'm gonna act on it and start to see if I can get ahead of it. So, other dreams. Let's talk about other dreams, because I know this has been kind of a somber video so far. But, so let's talk about my other dreams. Okay, so these are all going to be very random. Just bear with me, because they are very random in nature. Okay, so I have the dreams about my sister, my mom. I told you that. Okay, here's one. Okay, so John F. Kennedy. So John F. Kennedy. Let's see what I wrote. I put John F. Kennedy taken out by LBJ's people. I don't know too much about like that whole time frame as far as politics are concerned. I know about John F. Kennedy's death and him being shot in the head, and he was dating Marilyn Monroe. I know those details, but I don't know so much about like the internal politics at the time. So I really wasn't into politics. But what I wrote was because what I was seeing in my dream. So when I woke up, I wrote it all down. I can't even understand how I got so much detail, but John F. Kennedy taken out by LBJ's people. There was an internal coup for retaining power. JFK wanted to dissolve agencies of the government, not all agencies, but agencies that were directly connected to this group within the government. So the way this was in my dream was that the president or the Senate or whatever, that even though they make the rules for like the general population, the inner groups like the FBI, the CIA, like these internal groups have other areas of within themselves that are kind of like government reinforcers, I guess you can call it. And so the power is consolidated within these groups. Even though the president may change out, the government still runs relatively the same, just because of these internal groups that maintain power. And so what I wrote was that this was an internal coup for retaining power because JFK wanted to dissolve agencies within the government. So there was governments that were connected to these power groups within the government, and JFK wanted to dissolve some of these groups because he wanted to like relinquish power back over to the democratic process, right? The democratic process. And so what I wrote was, so that's why they took him out, was because they were trying to retain their power, they were trying to survive. I also put that the mob and the U.S. agencies worked together with some projects. So the mafia at the time, and the U.S. the internal agencies, these other agencies, power agencies I call them, they were working together on several projects, or they did things in conjunction with each other because they would use each other, because the mob had a lot of power at that time as well, so they were trying to use each other in conjunction with each other. And I put that there's actually different factions of the government where it's like there's different groups within the government, and they want to make sure they retain power, and their threats are like neutralized or like no longer an issue for them. I also put that Marilyn Monroe was killed by the mafia, in conjunction with the like CIA or the mafia or whatever. But Marilyn Monroe was killed by the mob because she knew too much information about what was going on with the inner workings, or they thought she knew too much information. So they killed her and they set it up to look like a suicide. So that was one dream. Okay, crazy, right? That sounds crazy. I don't even know if I buy it, because I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. And I actually wrote, and actually let me fast forward because I want to tell you about this brings in our current politics. So I wrote down, Hillary Clinton is allied. So Hillary Clinton was allied with these inner government agencies that are in power. And so what was interesting is that the election was going to go to her, but she was telling these power agencies or organizations, she was telling them one thing, but then she would be telling others other things. So they began to question whether they could trust her or they can count on her because of these challenges there. So they weren't sure they could trust her. So they were like, we don't know we can trust her. We need to neutralize her. And so I think that these inner agencies actually colluded to try to work around her being like the president. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that this is my belief. I'm saying this was my dream, okay? This was my dream. So this is, I don't even know if I buy my own dream, but this is the dream that I had. So I'm just sharing that with you guys, so that way you're like, what? Fernando said that this and this and this was going to happen. No. This is what I dreamt. I'm just sharing my dream with you guys. I don't even know if I buy it, but this is the dream. It's a very interesting dream, but so because Hillary was allied with these government organizations, and then she was telling them one thing, then she was assuring them of one thing or a set of things, and then she was assuring other things. They didn't know they could trust her, so they needed to like get her out of the picture, because, and at that time it was, by that point it was already just her and Donald, and they didn't feel like they had a choice. They had to go with Donald because they couldn't trust her. And so they got her out of the way. They put him in power as a band-aid. So him going into power was as a band-aid because they felt that they could probably control him, or they would be able to manipulate him a lot better or a lot easier than Hillary. And so they allowed him to go into power, but they also don't really want the groups that he's allied with. They don't want any kind of like political groups or any kind of factions, government factions that he's allied with. They don't want them in power either. But they felt they could control that more so than having Hillary in power, because that was a bit too questionable for them. So what they decided to do is, so they let him go into power, and they were going to do a workaround. They were trying to figure out what they were going to do to work around that. And that he would only serve like 2 years. Imagine if we saw that he would only serve two years, and then that there would be like a Cayman or a Cameron or a Carmen name person that was going to be instrumental with him no longer being in office. Whether that person's responsible for him no longer being in office, or that's just a name that comes up and is all over the news at the time that he's no longer in office, but in a 2-year period. So that's what I was seeing in regards to that. And so it was really weird, because the dream was more like me just being told something instead of me like seeing it all play itself out. I wasn't seeing it. Some of the dreams were like that, like my mom's dream, like I was seeing stuff playing out, or I was participating in it. This for me was more like seeing it from a third eye perspective, and just kind of seeing it like in succession or really fast. So that was one, which was crazy. I also had another dream where there was going to be like a new type of turbine engine, and the engine was going to be utilizing principles that they use for the Dyson fans. So if you look at those like really high-tech Dyson fans, which is like a ring and then like air flows through it, I was seeing that, but it was like a turbine engine. So I saw that they were going to like maybe make a turbine engine based off of those principles. I don't even know if that's possible, but that was another dream, because I kept seeing these engines shaped like that. So that was another dream. I don't remember all the details, because I don't remember like who was doing that or what was going on, but I just saw that in my head. I also had this dream about like volcanoes, and that's going to sound crazy. So volcanoes. So like there's this theory that Yellowstone is this super volcano, and that if it blows up, like everybody's going to die on the planet, because the sky would be cluttered with ash for months or years or whatever, and all kinds of craziness. But the dream that I was having was that Yellowstone was it being a super volcano, it holds a crap load of magma or lava. And what happens is that all the volcanoes around the world are interconnected like a web underneath, and that scientists don't even know this yet, but that they're all interconnected like a web to each other. So they're not just like separate by themselves; they're all interconnected, and there's chambers throughout the earth. And so if like a super volcano like Yellowstone becomes super active, or it starts to build pressure, then the natural tendency is for the pressure not to go up, but to go into the chambers or into the web of like connected volcanoes. And so the pressure builds, it goes into the web, and then all these other volcanoes become more active, and then we start to go through an active period of volcanoes, because the pressure is building in the earth that is trying to release its pressure through these volcanoes. So that's how I was seeing that, and so instead of Yellowstone blowing up and going this way, it was going to pressure all the other volcanoes into like becoming more active, releasing some of that pressure, and then Yellowstone would start to actually cave in and collapse in on itself, turning into like a crater or like a Grand Canyon kind of event. And so that's how I was seeing that, like a Grand Canyon kind of event like that happening. So it'd be like actually like collapse in on itself and become like a big gaping hole in the earth. So that's how I saw that. So that was interesting, because I was like, well, that's weird. So that was another one. And let's see. I had a dream that there was going to be a hurricane that hit Galveston in 2 years, or like in a couple of years. It wasn't this year. I mean, well, it's not this year because we're already done with hurricane season. I don't know if it was next year, but it was like 2019, I think. But there was a hurricane that hit Galveston. That was another dream. And the last dream I had was this company that I think was based in the U.S., and they were going to get some technology from China. And the technology had to do with like nuclear power plants. And what was going to be happening is that right now, I don't even know how nuclear power plants work, but the way that this was like seemed different somehow. But I felt like China, or one of these, like, yeah, I think it's China, they were going to invent technology that made it they were going to invent technology where it made it more effective and efficient to absorb and utilize the energy from a nuclear reaction. And so the technology was going to become really, really good. And so what they were going to do is they were going to go ahead and like start utilizing that technology because it was a form of clean energy. And I don't think that nuclear power plants are clean energy right now, but for some reason this was different. This was different. The process for absorbing the energy was different. So it was clean energy. So I wasn't sure how that was even, but that's how I was seeing it. And so this company in the U.S. was going to join forces with the Chinese company, or the U.S. was going to join forces with China to start utilizing this energy because it was going to like help with a lot of the financial burdens on the it was one company. I think it was just one company. I don't think it was the whole U.S. But they were trying to create more clean energy. I even there was like a company name called Nucleosis. It's like nucleus and oasis together, which was like nucleosis. I think that's how I called it. But I saw that there was going to be like this like San Francisco had volunteered to be the first host city for this kind of like for this kind of technology, or for this kind of, because this is a city in California, but they were volunteering to be one of the first cities to have this kind of like company or organization or whatever that was going to provide this kind of energy. What was weird though, and I don't even know like what the time frame for this was, but what was weird is that I don't see how that's possible, because I mean San Francisco has tons of earthquakes, and then you just look at like Japan and the Fukushima thing, that was a big old disaster and a mess, and it's still like leaking. You know, they can't get it under control. I don't know why even anywhere in California would even like volunteer to be a host city for this kind of technology if there's earthquakes. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I was like, okay, that's bullshit. That's BS. That's not, I don't think it's gonna happen. But it was an interesting dream, right? So these are the dreams that I had. I think it's been like a month that I've been having these types of dreams. Very interesting, very entertaining, to say the least. But I wanted to share them with you. I hope you found them as entertaining as I did. I don't know if I buy my own dreams. The one about my mom, I'm definitely taking that more seriously, just because it is my mom, and also it's happened so often, and now I'm like, okay, I've got to take this seriously. And it's the same thing with a hurricane. I was having like repeated dreams about that, or I was having regular dreams about that were happening within a short time frame. So, all right, guys, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow for the show. Okay, bye.